He was called America's bravest man, a boy from a Texas farm who became the most decorated U.S. soldier of World War II. Audie Murphy faced nightmares most men couldn't imagine. 6 German tanks, hundreds of enemy soldiers, and the heavy silence that follows when the gunfire stops. When the war ended, Hollywood opened its gates for him. To studios, he was a living legend, a face they could turn into a movie hero. But what they didn't realize was that Murphy brought something else to Hollywood, something Tinseltown rarely welcomes. Murphy wasn't dazzled by fame or glamour. He'd seen the real face of courage and the real face of evil, and he could tell the difference instantly. Behind the champagne smiles and glimmering awards, he saw what others refused to see, the rot beneath the glitter. Over time, the quiet soldier reportedly kept a mental list. 5 names of Golden Age icons whose fame, he believed, hid something far darker. They were Hollywood's brightest stars, but to Murphy, they were masks for something genuinely cruel. Tonight, we reveal the 5 names that, according to those who knew him, Audie Murphy believed were not heroes, but warnings. 1. Errol Flynn, the hero who played a patriot but praised tyrants. On screen, Errol Flynn was everything a nation adored: bold, handsome, daring. He swashbuckled his way through the 1930s as the face of adventure and justice. But the man behind the grin, Murphy reportedly said, would have made him uneasy on the battlefield. There were whispers that Flynn's charm hid something far more sinister: admiration for the very enemy Murphy had fought. In private, according to several accounts, Flynn expressed sympathy for Hitler's Germany and was rumored to have flirted with fascist ideology long before America joined the war. Murphy, who'd seen men die fighting that evil, found such talk unforgivable. To him, pretending to be a hero while secretly admiring monsters was more than hypocrisy. It was betrayal. Flynn's personal life only deepened that disgust. In 1942, he faced charges of assaulting underage girls. He was acquitted, but the testimony painted a disturbing picture: a man whose charm could turn predatory when the cameras stopped rolling. Murphy once refused to appear at the same veterans event as Flynn, reportedly saying, "I didn't fight Nazis overseas to shake hands with their admirers at home." The man who played Robin Hood became, in Murphy's eyes, the very thing Robin Hood fought: a figure who stole honor and used it as decoration. 2. Frank Sinatra, the voice that echoed with shadows. Frank Sinatra's voice could melt hearts and move nations. He was the symbol of post-war cool, a patriot, an entertainer, a gentleman of class. But to Audie Murphy, the soldier who knew real loyalty, Sinatra represented something corrupted, the weaponization of loyalty itself. Hollywood insiders long whispered about Sinatra's connections to organized crime. Names like Lucky Luciano, Sam Giancana, and Carlo Gambino floated in the same orbit as Old Blue Eyes. To the public, these were charming stories of Sinatra's tough guy friends. To Murphy, they were proof of something deeper: power built on intimidation, silence, and fear. Murphy respected loyalty, but only the kind forged in the trenches, not bought in a nightclub. Reports from the time claimed that Sinatra used his influence to threaten journalists who crossed him and to blacklist artists who didn't obey his circle. When one columnist dared to criticize him, he was allegedly assaulted by Sinatra's entourage. That was the kind of violence Murphy had seen before, not in Hollywood, but on battlefields. Only now it wore silk suits and diamond cufflinks. Murphy once told a fellow actor, Leadership built on fear isn't strength, it's rot. He saw Sinatra's shadow empire not as glamorous rebellion, but as a perversion of honor, a soldier's nightmare dressed up in tuxedo charm. 3. Spencer Tracy, the gentleman with a hidden storm. Spencer Tracy looked like the kind of man every parent wanted their son to become. Wise, kind, noble. His characters embodied decency and quiet strength. But according to those close to Murphy, the real Tracy was something far more volatile. Tracy's struggles with alcoholism were no secret in Hollywood circles. Yet what the public didn't see was the wreckage that his drinking left behind. The abuse, the rages, the fear on film sets that sometimes had to shut down for days while he sobered up. Murphy understood addiction. He himself battled nightmares and sleepless nights after the war. But where Murphy fought his demons inwardly, Tracy reportedly unleashed them on those around him. Crew members described him as cruel when drunk, insulting camera operators, lashing out at assistants, even at the woman he loved, Katharine Hepburn. Their romance, immortalized by gossip columns, was far from the fairy tale the studios sold. Murphy saw in Tracy something he despised: talent without humility, suffering without compassion. He once told a friend, "You can't preach virtue in front of a camera if you poison people when it's off." To Murphy, Tracy wasn't evil because he drank. He was evil because he let his pain justify cruelty, a sin Murphy believed no hero could commit.
4. Joan Crawford, the queen who ruled by fear. Joan Crawford embodied Hollywood power. She rose from nothing, reshaping herself into the image of grace, discipline, and control. But Audie Murphy, who had lived through tyranny of another kind, reportedly saw her reign as something darker, a dictatorship of ego. Stories of Crawford's cruelty toward her children, later told in Mommy Dearest, circulated quietly in the 1950s. Even those who doubted the book admitted that her temper, her punishments, and her need for absolute control were legendary. To her fans, she was an icon of strength. To those behind the scenes, she could be terrifying. Assistants described her as a perfectionist who reduced people to tears over a crooked hanger or a spot of dust. Servants said she treated them like servants of a queen, and sometimes worse. Murphy, who had grown up poor and barefoot in rural Texas, despised that kind of cruelty. He had seen men use power to protect the weak, and he had seen others use it to destroy. In Crawford, he saw the latter, someone who turned suffering into control. He once remarked, "Real strength doesn't demand fear, it inspires respect." Crawford, he believed, demanded fear. For Murphy, who valued truth above image, her life was the ultimate Hollywood illusion. The idea that glamour could hide cruelty, that pain inflicted behind closed doors could be erased by perfect lighting and flawless makeup.